I reported my car stolen when my sister took it after I told her not to. My sister, Kayla, has always been that person who thinks rules don't apply to her. Growing up, she'd borrow my clothes without asking, eat my leftover pizza from the fridge, and somehow always convince her parents that I was being unreasonable when I got mad about it. But this time, she went way too far. I've been saving up for 3 years to buy my car, a used Honda Civic that wasn't fancy but was mine. I worked weekends at Target, did odd jobs for neighbors, and basically lived off ramen noodles to make it happen. When I finally bought it last month, I was so proud. It represented freedom, independence, all that good stuff. Kayla has her own car. By the way, a newer Nissan that our parents helped her buy because she's always been the favorite. But apparently, that wasn't good enough for her Friday night plans. I was getting ready for work that morning when she knocked on my bedroom door. "Hey, can I borrow your car tonight? Mine's making this weird noise, and I don't want to risk breaking down on a date with Trevor." I looked at her like she was insane. "No, Kayla, you have your own car. Take it to a mechanic if you're worried." "Come on, don't be such a control freak, it's just for one night," I said. "No, I need my car this weekend. And honestly, you've never asked to borrow anything before. You just take it." "So, no." She rolled her eyes and stormed out, slamming my door hard enough to rattle the picture frames on my wall. I thought that was the end of it. I went to work, came home around 6 p.m., and didn't think about it again until I woke up Saturday morning and looked out my window. My parking spot was empty. At first, I thought maybe I was still half asleep and forgot where I parked. But no, my car was definitely gone. I checked the street, walked around the block, nothing. That's when I noticed Kayla's Nissan was still in the driveway, looking perfectly fine. I called her phone about 15 times, straight to voicemail every time. I texted her demanding to know where my car was. No response. I even went to her room and pounded on the door, but she wasn't there. My mom found me in the kitchen stress-eating cereal at noon. "What's wrong with you today?" Kayla took my car without permission after I specifically told her no. "Do you know where she is?" Mom just shrugged. She mentioned something about spending the weekend at Trevor's place. "I'm sure she'll bring it back, that's not the point. She stole my car. Don't be so dramatic. She's your sister. She probably just needed it for something important." This is exactly the kind of response I expected from my mom. Kayla could probably burn the house down, and Mom would find a way to excuse it. By Sunday afternoon, I was done playing games. Still no word from Kayla, still no car. I had to work Monday morning, and I wasn't about to beg my parents for a ride like some middle schooler. So, I called the police. "I need to report a stolen vehicle," I told the dispatcher. The officer who came to take the report was this older guy named Officer Martinez, who seemed genuinely concerned. I explained the whole situation, how I'd explicitly refused to let my sister borrow the car, how she'd taken it anyway, and how she'd been ignoring my calls for 2 days. "Do you want to press charges?" he asked. I hesitated for maybe half a second. Yes. About an hour later, my phone exploded with texts. First from Kayla, "Are you insane? The cops just pulled me over and arrested me." Then from my mom, "How could you call the police on your own sister?" Then my dad, "This is ridiculous. Family doesn't do this to family." I ignored all of them and went to pick up my car from the impound lot where they towed it. After Kayla's arrest, it cost me $60, but it was worth every penny to see her face when she got home that night. She came storming into the house around 10 p.m., her mascara smudged and her hair a mess. "You got me arrested. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? Trevor thinks I'm some kind of criminal now. Maybe don't steal cars next time," I said without looking up from my laptop. "It's not stealing when it's family. Actually, it literally is stealing." The police officer explained that to me very clearly. My parents spent the next hour lecturing me about family loyalty and forgiveness, and how I'd taken things too far. But you know what? I didn't care. For the first time in my life, Kayla actually faced consequences for her actions instead of getting away with it. Because she's the golden child, she had to spend 6 hours in jail, pay a fine, and now has this whole legal mess to deal with. Meanwhile, I learned that my car insurance covers theft even when it's family members doing the stealing. The best part, she hasn't asked to borrow anything of mine since Story 2 at Thanksgiving dinner. My sister raised a toast and said, "We voted. You're not family anymore." Everyone cheered. I just smiled, pulled out a folder and said, "Then you'll want to read this before dessert." Chapter 1, The Last Seat at the Table. I arrived late to Thanksgiving dinner. Not by accident. I just knew they wouldn't wait for me. They never did. The dining room was loud with laughter. Plates clinked, glasses filled with wine. At the head of the table sat my sister Rachel, confident, manicured, smug. In the seat that used to be Dad's, there was no place set for me. A paper plate and plastic fork waited near the kids' table in the corner. Mom didn't even look up when I walked in. "There's your seat, honey," she mumbled. I swallowed the bitterness like dry bread and took my place in silence. No one asked how I was. No one mentioned Dad. No one mentioned the house he left behind. But I noticed something. Rachel wore his watch, his prized Omega, and behind her on the mantel, the oil painting that once hung in his study. She'd taken everything, and they all just accepted it. I glanced at my niece, Emily, only 14, but her eyes flickered toward me with a whisper of sadness. She knew something was wrong. Then Rachel rose with her wine glass. "Ma'am, everyone," she smiled broadly. "Before dessert, I just want to raise a toast." I froze. "To family," she said, voice syrupy. "And to difficult decisions. This year we made one. We voted and we've decided." She paused, smirking. "You're not part of this family anymore." The table erupted in laughter. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just smiled, reached into my coat, and placed a sealed envelope in the center of the table. "If I'm not family," I said calmly, "then you'll definitely want to read this before dessert." Dead silence fell. Rachel stopped smiling. Emily's eyes widened. And for the first time all evening, everyone looked at me. Chapter 2, Dad's Final Instructions. No one moved as Rachel slowly picked out the envelope. Her fingers hesitated, even she, always so smug, always so in control, looked unsure for the first time. "It's from Dad," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "He wrote it 2 days before he passed. Told me to deliver it when the family showed me who they really were." I let the words settle like dust on a polished surface. Rachel scoffed. "He left me the house, this is some stunt." But her voice cracked. She tore open the envelope. Inside was a folded letter on thick cream paper. Dad's handwriting, slanted and bold, covered the page. She read the first line aloud. "To my children." This letter was to be read aloud by Rachel in front of the entire family. No exceptions. Her mouth tightened up. Mom urged, "Rachel, just read it," and so she did. "If you're reading this, I'm likely gone. And you've already started picking through my things. That's fine." I expected it. But what I did not expect, or perhaps I did, is how quickly some of you would forget what matters. My son, your brother, stood by me when I couldn't walk. He helped me bathe when cancer took my dignity. He held my hand when I screamed from the pain. You, Rachel, did not visit once. A gasp escaped from the table. Rachel's face flushed red. You mocked him for being soft, for choosing art over law, for not chasing a title. But character cannot be faked. So, this letter comes with instructions. In a surprise. Rachel's voice wavered as she reached into the envelope again. Inside was a second envelope. A legal-sized one labeled property deed and trust instructions to be opened now. I spoke clearly. That's the real will. The one Dad wrote with his attorney the week before he died. Rachel's jaw clenched. That's not legal. I have the signed copy. You had the old copy. I said this one was notarized after yours. And it was registered with Dad's lawyer, who's on his way here right now. Right on cue, the doorbell rang. Everyone turned, and outside through the frosted glass stood a man in a gray overcoat, briefcase in hand. Rachel's hands trembled. Emily whispered, "Uncle, what's happening?" I leaned down and said softly, "Sweetheart, we're finally reading the truth." Chapter 3, The Will They Never Knew Existed. The door creaked open, and in stepped a tall man with silver hair and a calm, deliberate presence. His overcoat glistened with melting snowflakes. He didn't flinch as Rachel stormed toward him. "Who the hell are you?" she snapped. He set his briefcase gently on the dining table. "I'm Robert Langford," he said unfazed. "Your father's estate attorney. I was retained privately during his final months." Her face twisted. "We already have a lawyer. Dad's will was read a week ago." "Yes," he replied coolly. "The will your father replaced 10 days before his death." That silenced the room. Mom sat back in her chair. One of Rachel's sons stopped mid-bite, the cranberry sauce on his fork trembling. Emily clutched her water glass. Mr. Langford opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick manila folder with a gold sticker seal. "Your father had suspicions," he continued, "that certain family members were planning to isolate his son, his real caretaker, after he passed. He asked me to witness and notarize a new set of documents. I have a video recording and signature log as required by law." He handed me a flash drive. Rachel lunged. "This is fraud. My copy was signed a month before he passed. It should stand. It would if he hadn't lived long enough to change his mind." Robert tapped the folder. "This revised will supersedes all previous versions. It contains his final instructions." I looked around. Even the smug cousins were pale now. Rachel snatched the folder and tore it open. The first page had only a few lines. "To my son, the one who stayed, the one who saw me as a man, not just an inheritance. Everything I own, my home, my investments, my belongings, now belongs to you. They tried to erase you, but I'll make sure they can't erase your name from the title. Let them choke on the truth. Love? Dad's silence, absolute breathtaking silence. Rachel's eyes scanned the next page. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. I stepped forward, lifted the final deed document, and laid it on the table. It was already stamped. Already filed. The house, the land, the bonds, all of it was mine. Rachel's face crumpled. You can't do this, she whispered. You can't just take everything. I looked her dead in the eyes. I didn't take anything. He gave it to me. You just assumed he never saw what you all really were. Chapter 4. The house visit. It was 3 days after Thanksgiving when the knock came. I had just finished moving the last of Dad's books into the study. His annotated classics, his war memoirs, the old photo albums he never let anyone touch but me. The house was still quiet, still sacred. The knock came again, sharper this time. I opened the door and there they were. Rachel, Mom, Emily, and her 2 grown sons. All standing on the porch, bundled in expensive coats. Their expressions a mixture of defiance, desperation, and something else they hadn't shown in years, nervousness. Rachel forced a smile first. We just wanted to stop by. Thought maybe we could talk. I didn't answer. I simply stepped aside and let them look past me. The house had changed. Warmer lighting, fresh flowers. Dad's flag from the army framed in the hall. A photo of me holding his hand at the hospital sat on the mantel center stage. Mom's eyes missed it. Emily's sons exchanged glances. They knew this wasn't the house they'd grown up visiting on holidays. This wasn't a place they could just walk into anymore. Rachel cleared her throat. Listen about the will. We were all just shocked. You blindsided us. I stared at her. You voted me out of the family, I said. In front of everyone. At Dad's table, she gave a tight, uncomfortable laugh. We didn't mean it. It was a joke, just a stupid toast. You know how this family gets. I leaned against the doorframe. You said I wasn't family. Then laughed while Mom clapped and Emily called for a real man to inherit Dad's things. No one replied. I opened the folder I'd left on the entry table. One last document. Still unsigned. Dad had one more clause, I said. An optional one. He gave me the right to decide if any of you would receive symbolic gifts, photographs, keepsakes, even letters. He said I should decide based on how you treat me after his passing. I held up a copy of that clause. You all just failed. Mom's eyes fell. Rachel looked like she wanted to scream, but Emily stopped her. What do you want from us? She asked. I looked over their faces, once smug and self-assured, now pale and tired. For the first time, I didn't feel small in front of them. I felt complete. I don't want anything, I said. You already gave me what I needed. I started to close the door. Rachel stepped forward. Wait. We just want one thing. Can we at least walk through the house one last time? Her voice cracked for closure. I stared at her for a long moment. Then I nodded. I stepped aside. Let them walk through. Silent, why deed? They passed by every room like they were walking through a museum of memories they didn't deserve. Rachel stopped at the piano room. Mom touched the edge of the couch, where she used to scold me for not joining the real family. But when they reached Dad's study, the door was locked. I turned the key in my hand. Not this room, I said. This room is for family. And I closed the door behind them. Final chapter. The lawyer's letter. A week later, the room was full. Dad's lawyer, Mr. Greaves, sat at the head of the polished mahogany table, surrounded by people who had once laughed at me with wine glasses in hand. Rachel, Emily, Mom, Uncle Don, Aunt Linda, even cousins who hadn't called Dad in years. The air was heavy, tense, silent, except for the ticking grandfather clock Dad had once rebuilt with me when I was 12. Mr. Greaves cleared his throat. As per Mr. William Fletcher's final wishes, the amended will is to be read publicly in full transparency. Rachel rolled her eyes. Can we skip to the part where the estate gets divided? Greaves didn't flinch. No, Miss Rachel, we begin with his final letter. He pulled out a single-page envelope sealed with wax. The same seal Dad had used on his wedding letters to Mom back when they were still in love. Greaves unfolded it and began reading aloud. To those gathered, if you're hearing this, I'm gone. But I hope not forgotten. I've lived a long life, made mistakes, raised a son I was proud of, and saw him discarded like a broken chair by the very people who should have stood behind him. Rachel, Emily, Linda, Dawn, I watched you all mock, exclude, and belittle the boy who held my hand when I was dying. The boy who paid my hospital bills while you planned parties I was never invited to. You raised toasts at Thanksgiving, declaring him not family. You made your vote, so here's mine. My home, the one I built with my own 2 hands, goes to the only person who visited me every week for the past 10 years. My savings, including the undisclosed life insurance policy, goes entirely to him. All family heirlooms, letters, recordings, and journals, his. You said he wasn't family. but in my final hours, he was the only family I had. Let this be the last vote. Signed, William Fletcher. Silence. Mom's mouth parted, but no words came out. Rachel looked like someone had pulled the floor out from under her. Emily just stared at the folder in my lap, the same one I placed on the table after their toast. Mr. Greaves continued matter-of-factly. Now, as executive, I can confirm all documentation has been verified. The transfer is legally binding. The remaining attendees are not named in any inheritance clause. Rachel stood up. This is a joke. I finally spoke. No, Rachel. That was at Thanksgiving. This is the consequence. She turned red. Emily pushed her chair back in disgust. I gave him my entire 20s, she muttered. This is robbery. Greaves smiled gently. No, Miss Emily, this is justice. As they stormed out one by one, I sat in the quiet and looked to the lawyer. He handed me the envelope. There's one more letter inside, he said. It's only for you. I waited until the room emptied, then opened it. It simply said, thank you for being the son I never had to doubt. You turned out exactly like your grandfather. Strong, quiet, and unshakably good. Live well, love freely, and forgive when you're ready. Not before I folded the letter, put it in my breast pocket, and walked out of the law office into the cold afternoon sun. For the first time in years, it didn't feel like winter. It felt like peace. Epilogue, the last vote that mattered. Months later, I hosted a small gathering at Dad's house, not a party, not a celebration, just warmth. The kind that comes from good food, shared stories, and real people. The house looked different now. Not in design, but in feeling. The cold silence that once haunted its halls was gone, replaced with quiet music, children's laughter, and the smell of my wife's apple pie in the oven. In the living room, the fireplace crackled softly. Above it, I'd hung a single framed photo. Dad and I standing on the porch, grease on our hands from rebuilding the old mailbox. He looked proud. I looked happy. That's the version of us I wanted the world to remember. Not the version that was erased from holidays. Not the version that was voted out. Just us. As we were a real family. As guests wandered through the house, they paused at the old dining table. The same one where Rachel raised her glass and made her famous toast. They didn't know that under the table I'd etched something, just a few words, carved with a penknife on the wood that had once hosted so much cruelty. This time, we voted back. And this time, the vote was unanimous. Not out of bitterness, but peace. Because sometimes the loudest revenge isn't rage or fire or thunder. It's silence. And the kind of love that doesn't need to be announced, only lived. Was this revenge perfectly justified, or should the storm have raged harder? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one. If you are watching this video, comment below and tell us where you are watching this video from. Hit like if you crave justice and share the story with someone who needs its fire.